She was never right for this family, my mother-in-law said, loud enough for the entire lobby to hear, and now everyone can see it. She was talking about me. I was standing 6 feet away, holding a cardboard box with my name on it, wearing the blazer I'd bought for my first day at Caldwell and Pierce 4 years ago. My husband was beside her, not looking at me. My sister, my actual biological sister, the person who used to braid my hair on Sunday mornings, was holding his hand. I didn't cry. I'd already done all of that the night before, alone in the guest bathroom of the house we'd shared for 3 years, sitting on the tile floor with the lights off. By the time morning came, something had shifted. I wasn't sad anymore. I was something else, something quieter and a lot more patient. Let me back up. I met my husband during my second year at Georgetown Law. He was finishing his MBA at GW, and we kept ending up at the same coffee shop on Wisconsin Avenue on Saturday mornings. Him with a yellow legal pad full of business models, me with a highlighter and a torts textbook. We started sharing a table because the place was always packed. We started sharing a lot more after that. He was charming in the way that men who grew up watching their fathers close deals are charming, confident, a little performative, but warm underneath it, or at least that's what I believed. His family had money. Not old money, but the kind of money that comes from a grandfather who built a regional trucking company in Georgia from nothing and passed it down. By the time I met my husband, the company had been sold, reinvested, and transformed into a mid-sized commercial real estate development firm based in Atlanta. His mother ran the family foundation. His father sat on the board of 3 nonprofits and played golf every Thursday. My family was different. My mother worked in hospital administration in Baltimore for 32 years. My father taught high school history. We weren't struggling, but we were precise. Every dollar had a destination. Every vacation was budgeted 3 months in advance. When I got into Georgetown on a partial scholarship, my parents made it work with loans and 1 less vacation per year, and a pride so big my father actually teared up at orientation. My sister was 4 years younger than me. She was the artistic one. Textiles, fashion design, beautiful instincts for color and silhouette. She'd done a program at SCAD and was building something real, a small sustainable clothing line she'd started out of our parents' basement. I believed in her completely. I used to send her clients from my firm when people asked me if I knew anyone who did custom work. I introduced her to everyone. That's the part that still catches in my throat sometimes, even now. My husband and I got married in October, small ceremony, his family's property outside Alpharetta. It was beautiful. I wore a dress my sister had designed for me, ivory silk, structured at the shoulders, a train that moved like water. In the photos, I look happier than I've ever looked in my life. The problems started slowly and then all at once, which is how I've come to understand that most problems work. His mother never warmed to me. Not because I was unaccomplished. She couldn't argue with Georgetown Law, or the fact that I had made associate at Caldwell and Pierce in under 3 years. It was something else, something she never said directly but communicated through 1,000 small gestures. The way she'd ask about my parents' jobs, with a smile that was just a fraction too polite. The way she'd turn to my husband when I was mid-sentence at dinner, redirecting the conversation without acknowledging she'd done it. The way she referred to my career as her little cases once, at a Christmas gathering, and then looked at me with an expression that dared me to respond. My husband saw none of it. Or he saw it and decided not to see it, which I've come to understand is a different and more deliberate thing. He started traveling more. Atlanta to Houston, Houston to Dallas, Dallas back to Atlanta with a detour through Charlotte. Commercial real estate was booming and the family firm was expanding, and he told me that this was the season for it, that we'd slow down in a couple of years, that I should be patient. I was patient. I was building my own career at the same time. I made partner track. I started handling corporate litigation for mid-market tech companies. I was good at it. My sister started coming around more. Not to see me, I realize now, though at the time I read it as exactly that. She'd been going through her own transition. The clothing line had stalled. She'd had a difficult breakup. She was feeling uncertain about her direction. I welcomed her. We'd have dinner when my husband was traveling, the 3 of us when he was home. I thought I was doing something right, weaving the people I loved into a life together. I found out on a Tuesday. I'd come home early from the office. We'd just settled a case, and the partner on the matter had cut us loose by 3. I remember I stopped at Whole Foods on Peachtree and bought salmon, and that fancy sparkling water my husband liked, the one that came in the dark green bottles. I was going to make dinner. I was in a genuinely good mood. The house wasn't empty. I won't describe what I saw in detail because some images, once you've worked hard enough to file them somewhere manageable, are better left there. What I will say is that it was my sister. And it was my husband. And the look on my husband's face when he saw me standing in the doorway wasn't guilt, or not primarily guilt. It was irritation. Like I was the one done something wrong by coming home to my own house. He said, "I was going to tell you." My sister said nothing. She grabbed her jacket from the back of the chair and walked past me without making eye contact. And I stood there holding a bag of groceries, including the fancy sparkling water, and I stood there. I put the groceries on the kitchen counter. I went upstairs. I packed a bag. I've left. That night, in a hotel room in Midtown, I lay on top of the covers and stared at the ceiling and took inventory. I was 34 years old. I was a partner track associate at a well-regarded firm. I had a law degree and a brain that had not stopped working on my behalf once in the past decade. Whatever my husband thought was happening, whatever story he and my sister were already writing together, they had both made a significant miscalculation. They had assumed I would fall apart. The divorce was not clean. His family hired their own attorney before I'd even retained mine, which told me everything I needed to know about how prepared they'd been for this outcome. His mother called me twice, once to tell me that I should consider what's best for everyone, and once to tell me that the house had been purchased with family money and that I should be realistic. I let both calls go to voicemail and forwarded them to my attorney the same afternoon. What they didn't know, I'd been meticulous about our finances from the beginning. Not because I'd anticipated any of this, but because I am, by nature and by training, meticulous. I had documentation of every joint asset, every transfer, every account. I had records of the contributions I'd made to the down payment on the house, in writing. I had 3 years of bank statements. My attorney was a woman named Brenda, small and precise and absolutely devastating in a deposition. She looked at what I'd brought her and said, "Okay, we can work with this." We worked with it. The settlement took 8 months. I stayed focused on my cases. I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment in Virginia Highland that had good light and a parking spot included in the lease, and I made it mine. I bought furniture I actually liked. I cooked for myself on Sundays. I called my parents every Thursday evening. I did not call my sister. My mother asked me once, gently, whether I wanted to try to talk to her. I thought about it for a long time before I answered. Then I said, "Not yet." And what I meant was, not until I'm standing somewhere she can see exactly who I became while she wasn't looking. That moment came 14 months after the divorce was finalized. It came at the 4th of July fundraising gala for the Buckhead Legal Foundation, held at the St. Regis, Atlanta. Caldwell and Pierce was a silver sponsor. I had been invited as a representing attorney, along with 2 senior partners. I almost didn't go. Galas are not my natural habitat, the small talk is exhausting, and I had a brief due the following Monday. But one of the partners had specifically asked me to attend because we were being considered for a significant expansion of our work with the foundation, and she wanted client-facing associates visible. So I went. I was standing near the bar in a navy dress I'd bought in a moment of optimism, holding a glass of sparkling water, talking with a foundation board member about a case that had recently made the Georgia legal news when I saw them. My husband and my sister, across the room. She was in a dress I didn't recognize, green, structured, probably her own design. She looked good, he looked the same. They were talking to his mother and a man I didn't know, all of them laughing at something, easy and polished, like a tableau from a magazine. And then my husband saw me. The laugh didn't disappear immediately. It faded, the way sound fades when you've walked too far from the source. He said something to my sister, and I watched her turn, and her eyes found me across the room, and she went very still. I held my glass and looked back at them calmly. I didn't walk toward them. I turned back to my conversation with the board member and said something about amicus briefs, and I meant every word of it. It was my mother-in-law, my former mother-in-law, who broke the distance. She crossed the room with the deliberate energy of a woman who has decided she is going to manage a situation, and when she reached me, she put her hand lightly on the arm of the board member I was speaking with and said, with a smile, "Forgive me for interrupting, I just need one moment with this young woman." The board member excused himself. She looked at me and her expression was exactly what I expected. Pleasant, immovable, the expression she'd been practicing since the first Christmas I'd spent in their house. "You look well," she said. "Thank you," I said. "It's a beautiful evening," she said. "It is," I said. She waited for me to the silence with some she could use, and when I didn't, she shifted slightly. My son and I were hoping this wouldn't be awkward. We're all adults, there's no reason we can't be civil. I'm being civil, I said. I've said 3 words to you in 4 years that weren't civil. She blinked. I only meant. I know what you meant, I said. Then I saw my husband approaching from my peripheral vision, my sister a half step behind him. He had the expression he always wore when he decided he was the reasonable one in the room, which was an expression I had studied long enough to read fluently. Okafor, he said. It was what he called me sometimes, using my maiden name, a habit from law school that I'd once found endearing. Now it landed differently. Hello, I said. This is a surprise, he said. Is it? I said. Caldwell and Pierce has sponsored this event for 6 years. He smiled, acknowledging the point without giving me the satisfaction of saying so. You look good, he said. How are things? Things are excellent, I said. Congratulations, by the way. He paused. On what? Your sister mentioned you'd closed the Marietta deal. That's a significant acquisition. Your firm must be pleased. He looked at me for a moment with something that wasn't quite suspicion, but was close to its outline. How did you know about that? I keep up with commercial real estate in the metro area, I said. It's relevant to some of my clients. This was true. It was also relevant because 2 of the investors in the Marietta deal were clients of a firm I had been in active conversation with about a potential merger of practices, a conversation that had begun 3 months earlier, and was, as of that week, progressing very well. My attorney had advised me that the terms being discussed were favorable. I had not shared this information with anyone outside the negotiation. My sister had not said a word. She was standing slightly behind my husband's right shoulder, and she looked the way she'd looked in the doorway of our house 14 months ago. Like she was waiting for me to do something she could respond to. I didn't give her anything to respond to. I heard you're still at Caldwell and Pierce, my husband said. Still, I said with a small smile. That's good, he said. He seemed uncertain about what register to use, which I found interesting. He'd been certain about everything the last time we'd been in the same room. His mother had drifted slightly to the left, monitoring, and I saw her glance toward the ballroom entrance with the expression of someone who is considering redirecting traffic. We should let you get back to your evening, she said. Of course, I said. Then my husband said, and I think he meant it as a kind of exit line, the thing you say to close a door gracefully. I'm glad things worked out for you. I looked at him. 14 months ago, he'd stood in our kitchen with his arms crossed and told me that I had always been more focused on my career than on building something real with him, that I was emotionally unavailable, that I had made him feel alone in his own marriage. He had said these things, and I had listened to them, because when someone tells you what's wrong with you while standing in the kitchen you shared with them 3 years, some part of you takes notes even when another part of you knows it isn't true. Things didn't just work out, I said. I worked them out. There's a difference. He nodded. Fair enough. By the way, I said, I don't know if you saw, there was a piece in the Atlanta Business Chronicle last month about the Whitmore Group. I watched something move behind his eyes. The Whitmore Group was a boutique development firm, 11 years old, well regarded in the Atlanta market. My husband had been in talks with them 6 months ago about a potential partnership. I knew this because one of my clients had mentioned it. The talks had gone sideways. The Whitmore Group had instead partnered with a legal advisory practice that provided strategic counsel on acquisitions and zoning litigation. That practice was Caldwell and Pierce. I had recused myself from the relevant work since my former husband was adjacent to the competing interest. But I had stayed informed. I am very good at staying informed. I saw it, he said, his voice carefully even. Exciting opportunity for them, I said, and for our firm. His mother's hand was on his arm now. The conversation had shifted into a frequency she could feel even if she couldn't fully parse it. My sister spoke for the first time. You seem happy, she said. I looked at her directly. I let myself look at her the way you look at someone you have decided you are not going to hate, because hatred is expensive and you have better things to spend on. I am, I said. I'm glad, she said, and she meant it, and somehow that was almost harder than anything else. How's the clothing line? I said. She blinked. It's going, slowly but going. I have a client, I said, media company, they do branded content. They've been looking for sustainable fashion partnerships for a campaign they're running in the fall. I'll have my assistant send you their contact information if you want. I watched her face cycle through several things at once. You don't have to do that, she said. I know, I said. That's not why I'm doing it. I didn't explain what I meant by that. I didn't need to. She understood, or she would later when she'd had time to sit with it. I was not doing it for her. I was doing it because I had decided, a long time ago in a hotel room in Midtown, that the person I was going to be on the other side of this was not going to be smaller than the person I'd been before. Diminishment was their move. It was not mine. I excused myself to find the partner I'd come with. My former husband and his family watched me go, and I didn't look back, not because I was performing something, but because I genuinely had somewhere more important to be. The merger of practices was finalized 6 weeks later. Caldwell and Pierce absorbed a boutique corporate advisory firm with 11 attorneys, 3 of them with specialties in commercial real estate litigation. The announcement ran in the Chronicle. My name was in the 4th paragraph, listed among the associates whose work had contributed to the foundation of the new partnership. My former mother-in-law saw it. I know because her longtime friend is a client of ours who mentioned it without any maneuvering on my part, in the middle of a conversation about an entirely different matter. She was asking about you, the client said. She seemed, I don't know, surprised, I said, and wrote something in the margin of my notepad. My sister called the media company. The campaign partnership went through. Her work was featured in a fall editorial that got picked up by 3 national publications. She texted me after it ran, just the link, and then 3 seconds later, thank you. I read it. I didn't respond right away. I made tea, the loose-leaf kind my mother always made, and I sat in my apartment with the good light, and I thought about the Sunday mornings when she used to braid my hair, and I thought about the ivory dress she designed for me, and I thought about the parking garage and the cardboard box and the fancy sparkling water I'd left on the kitchen counter. Then I texted back, I saw. You earned it. That's the thing no one tells you about building something after it falls apart. The revenge part, the moment when you're standing in a hotel ballroom, and your former husband is looking at you like he's trying to recalculate something, that part is real, and I won't pretend it doesn't matter. It matters. The body keeps score, and mine kept score very carefully, and there was a satisfaction in that evening at the St. Regis that I will not apologize for. But the real thing, the thing that doesn't make for a clean story with a single turning point, is quieter. It's the merger announcement. It's the client who takes your call on a Friday afternoon. It's the apartment with the good light. It's the tea. It's the Tuesday morning when you realize you haven't thought about the kitchen doorway in 3 weeks. I'm not standing in the kitchen doorway anymore. I'm not standing anywhere they put me. I decided where I stand now. That took longer than one night in a hotel room, longer than 8 months of divorce proceedings, longer than one clean moment at a gala in a navy dress. It took me choosing myself, over and over, in the small hours when no one was watching and there was nothing dramatic about it at all. That's the whole story. That's all of it.